Okay, what I'm going to try to do is now first of all, I don't know anything about this. I don't know what's wrong with it. I don't have a clue. It was given to me along with some other Weed Eater brand gasoline powered tools, and I am going to attempt to repair this blind. What I mean by blind is I don't have any symptoms. Nobody's come in and said it won't run or it won't do this or it won't do that. Okay? Well, this is the Weed Eater brand GH22 hedge trimmer, and I want to show you what condition it was when it got here. Much as you see it, the only thing I have done so far is this was laid in here loose. I don't mean totally loose, but this cover was on it with 4 bolts, and they weren't tightened down. They had been removed and put back in place, and then that was it. And they weren't snug. It was like somebody opened this up to look at it and said, oh, put the 4 bolts back in, although it should have 6, should have 2 bolts out here holding it in place for additional support. But I pulled the 4 bolts, I pulled this pan to expose this. Now, it is obvious that the way this works is you have this pan. Well, let me just show you this first. Your hedge clippers do like they just go chicka 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 back and forth like this right here, okay? And your cutting teeth are on this top piece. See, we have 2 pieces. This is 3 pieces. We got this piece right here. We got this piece, and we got this red piece on top. And it appears to me that this needs lubricating. I want to say that this has never been cleaned or lubricated. So that's one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spray it with something to let it be, I want to get to where I can move this. If we look in here, you can see this big gear is driven by this little gear, and notice what this pin does. Pin rotates around, and that's how we transfer circular motion into back and forth motion that it takes to drive this. Okay, so that's the way it works. And by looking more closely, I see that under here, just like in a chainsaw, up underneath there is a centrifugal clutch. So these hedge clippers don't start clipping the instant it's started. So it should sit there in idle just like a chainsaw and not start cutting until you rev it up some. So my first step here is I want to lubricate this and get these to where they'll move. If I can't get this to move, there's no need in going any further. If I do get it to move, then I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to grease whatever I can. I'm going to put this back together, and then I'm going to go to getting the engine to run. Okay? So that's where I'm at right now. I'll be right back, or I don't know how long it's going to take me, but in just a couple of seconds we'll be in for the next part. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to spray this down and see if we can get this lubed up to where it'll start moving. And I do want to tell you that what I'm going to use is my homemade penetrating oil. I already have a video on it, and I'll give you the link down here, because the truth is I want you to watch my videos. I don't want to give it all away in just one, but this is a homemade homemade penetrating oil that I make, and it works fantastic. We'll be back. Okay, well, I want to use my homemade penetrating oil to get this lubed up to where we can make it move. Pardon me, I'm in the light. So we'll let that sit. And now I'd like to talk to you about how I diagnose an engine. Let me get this moved. Get my camera set up better. Be right back. Don't really have that light set perfect, but y'all can see me all right, I reckon. When I work on a little engine like this, well, let me back up. There are three things you need for an engine to run. You need fire, ignition. You need spark, okay? You need fuel, and you need compression. So when you pull on that cord, if you feel resistance, you know, you know you've got compression. You don't just go, you know, you feel it. So you know you've got compression. And I'm going to show you that I'm going to use my inline spark checker and show you that I do have spark. Okay? And I can feel the compression when I'm pulling on it. So all I have to do is make sure I can get fuel to this little engine. But there's one more thing I check on these little 2 cycles before I go any further. Before I mess with pulling the carburetor, before I mess with cleaning that, replacing fuel lines and all that kind of stuff. Is I've had this happen to me with chainsaws. And that's that the piston is scarred terribly. And the way you check for that is you go where the exhaust port is, wherever it is. I'll find it on here after a while. Anyway, you go to where the exhaust is. I think it's up under here. And there's a screen. I think it might be a spark arrestor screen. But sometimes those get filled up with oil. And you can't, you know, your little engine can't breathe good enough. So my next step is I'm going to go find this little screen. I'm going to find my exhaust. And when you pull that screen, it will expose the side of the piston. And you can look, see if it's all scarred up. If it is all scarred up, then you have to make a decision, is it worth salvaging or not? Because I know that since I have spark, since I have compression, I know I can get fuel to it. I know how to clean and or rebuild the carburetor. So that's not an issue. I know I can make that happen. Meanwhile, we'll let the clipper thing sit there and be loosening up and getting all lubricated and stuff, and hopefully be able to start bolting this thing back together. So I'll be back.